I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. The invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Raven Keefer. If you'd like to make a donation for our film fundraiser, we are now in production for movie number 3. We're having fun with this one. It's going to be a sci-fi comedy mockumentary featuring myself and many of your favorite researchers, authors, and content creators. If you would like to make a donation, anything is greatly appreciated. Please use the link in the description. All my films are completely self-funded with the help of your kind donations. Be sure and check out my other films. Doors of Perception is on Amazon Prime. Occult Louisiana is on Tubi, Roku, Apple, and a few more. We're booking guests for February. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome back to the show Raven Keefer. He is a researcher, an expose writer from the mid-1980s through today. He currently has over 23 books in print and has been a lifetime researcher that contributes to numerous content creators and independent reporters. Raven, welcome back. How you doing?
I never know. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, man. It's great to have you. You've been one of our most frequent return guests. I appreciate the research and insights you've shared over the years. You're back once again in 2026 to bring awareness to the sleepy folks out there. 2025 was an eventful year as it relates to the emerging dystopian technocracy. And to start off this year, we're having a good old-fashioned regime change in Venezuela because, you know, freedom. But anyone with eyes to see is already aware that there's much more going on behind the scenes, as there always is. Before we get into this, remind the audience a little bit about yourself and let them know how they can find out more.
I'm the class clown that never quit clowning. You know, folks, I've done research and I've done podcasts. I've written books. You can find me on YouTube. My most recent thing is I've been doing live comedy streams on YouTube, and of course my music. You know, all these distractions that they want us to pay attention to, just it's not worth it to me. I'm having a lot more fun doing music and comedy.
Right on, man. I hear that. I hear that. Well, how was your 2025? Anything eventful besides what you just mentioned?
Well, you know, 2025 was one of those weird years where it seemed like we were in, I don't know, stasis. Everything, you know, you could see everything kind of building, but they just kind of kept it low key, and you know that things were being done behind the scenes and what have you. But 2025 was actually pretty tame compared to what we've had before. You know, there were some, you know, you got the Russian-Ukraine thing and you got the Palestine thing. And but in general, it was pretty tame. I don't think it's going to be that way this year. If you look at you know, a lot of people don't believe in this stuff and they won't acknowledge it. But the folks that are making decisions at highest levels, they use astronomy, the astrology, they use planetary alignments, they use timing. And 2026, I just did a podcast a little while ago, and I said 2026 is the year of war.
The year of the fire horse, I believe.
Yeah, well, it's the year of the dragon. But the thing about it is it's the same patterns that we had in the year before World War II broke out. So, you know, and then you start looking at the economics. the one thing that they have to have if they want to have a war is they have to have people that will enlist. Well, the best way to do that is to make the economy so terrible that the military is the only option that you have.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, they did it in the early 1900s. They did it before they got the build up to World War One, and then look what they did in the 20s and 30s in order to build up for World War II. And they're doing it right now, as far as the economy goes.
Every year we also have a couple
folks,
of high-impact events that are multi-layered and multi-purposed. I think the Charlie Kirk assassination was one of those for this year. They are able to accomplish unseen and unknown agendas behind the madness of the psychological operation that's unfolding.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, in the mass psychological operations, people don't understand, you know, Kennedy was a mass psychological operation. You know, I would call the Kennedy event, I say event, a demoralization psychological operation. Somebody who actually sounded like they were representing the people and trying to do things right ends up being part of that event and removed from the public eye, and you end up with a mass psychological attack on a whole population.
Yeah. It seems to be the game plan for so many assassinations and high-impact events. The multi-layered aspect of confusion, so nobody has a clue what is really unfolding, who's really involved. There seem to be so many angles and so many players that it's impossible to know how these pieces fit together, and that's part of every psychological operation they have. There's so many moving parts and pieces, it's impossible to follow the narratives.
Well, I mean, you know, the spider web always goes back to the center, which tends to be the bankers. But the problem is the bankers, somebody says, well, you know, the bankers have been doing this and that and the other. Yeah, well, that's true. They have the central control because they control the finances, you know, for most of the planet. But who's pulling their strings? You know, you know, I've dug down that rabbit hole, you know, the Committee of 300 and the Illuminati and the Bilderbergs and Davos, you know, with the WEF. I've been through that. And it always leads you back to the same people.
Yeah.
But if it's the same people, then who are these other ones that come in on the regular that nobody really knows their name? You know, one of them might be a prince, one of them might be a businessman, but they're not really directly associated with these groups. But their family has appeared over the years, you know, like, and should I name a couple of them?
Yeah, man, go for it.
Medici, those families that are not out front are always in these groups, you know, but you never see them in the forefront. You know, Sassoon was a little bit different because we had a couple of them that got into, you know, marketing, you know, like clothes and what have you. But
much of the people you do see in the forefront are literally actors. They are playing a role through and through, and they have no real power. They have no real sway. They're there to portray a face, to put a face to the ideologies that they're trying to put forward, but nothing more than that.
Yeah. I mean, well, if they had any control, you'd think that you know, things would change if you look at actually how they do things. I find it interesting that several of our presidents over the last couple of decades have been Screen Actors Guild members.
100%.
Well, it's like AOC. People get mad at me because I pick on her, but, you know, she got her job because she went to an audition.
Yeah.
You know, people don't know. She auditioned for being a senator. Huh?
Yes.
And then you got that weird dude. What is he from Pennsylvania? The one that looks like Festus. What is his name? Fetterman?
Oh, yeah. Something like that.
I mean, you know, come on. I mean, really. But anyway, it's just, you know, to me, it's entertainment. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not aware of what's going on, folks. There's a difference between being aware and letting it, you know, wear on you. I'm aware of what they're, talking about, like right now they're going to go back into Iran again. I also am aware of the things that are going on the island of Cyprus. A lot of people don't know the old history. The Greeks and the Turks hate each other. They've been bred to hate each other through colonialism. And the Greeks and Mossad, CIA, MI6 are working on Cyprus. Well, Cyprus is split between the Turks and the Greeks. So, if I was in Turkey, I would be keeping my eyes on Cyprus because, but anyway, you and I were talking about, you started out talking about Venezuela and technocracy. And that's one of the things that when you asked me something to talk about, I thought this thing with Venezuela was very relevant because a lot of people are not familiar with technocracy at all, which if you really want to find out about technocracy, it's John Wood. You can find him, just type in John Wood and technocracy, and he's been at it for years. But the technocrate, the North American technocrate goes from Alaska to Greenland, all the way down through Mexico and Central America to Venezuela.
Now, for those that aren't familiar, tell us a little bit about what the North American Technate is.
Okay, so back in the 1930s, and I should point out that Elon Musk's grandfather, Joshua Haldeman, and Trump's uncle, John G., the one that got Tesla's gear, were both technocracy people. They were part of the original technocracy movement. Well, the idea is that you eliminate politicians because they're crooked, right? And they can't make good decisions. But what you can do is you can put scientists and technology in charge and let it make all the decisions.
Yep.
So what you end up being ruled by a scientific elite rather than, well, I won't call them elite because elite has
the nerd dorks.
Elite used to mean people who, the nerd dorks. Well, elite used to mean the people who had the best skills or were the best at what they do. And today, the elite are people who are considered to be. It's a belief system rather than the truth. I mean, does anybody think that Trump is elite? Yeah. If you think Trump is elite, you got no clue. I mean, the guy is witless, feckless, dishonest as hell. He might be able to make money, but that's not because he's elite. It's because he knows how to play the game.
Yeah.
So I mean, he might be an elite game player, but as far as intellectual skills and being a human, I wouldn't say he is. But I say that about all the politicians.
Yeah.
That's how I said that, politicians. But anyway, so the technocracy movement was in the early 1900s, 1930s. It had a really big boom in Canada. That's, of course, where John Haldeman, Elon Musk's grandfather, came into it. But the idea was to put everything in the control of scientists. And technology would make decisions rather than people. Yes. Because people are flawed, obviously. And the problem that you have is the idea was that you would eliminate all politicians and everything would be run by the science. And we know how science works, right? Yeah, I love the fact that they say that they can have a consensus in science. The very fact that they say that they can have a consensus means that they don't understand science at all.
Yes.
This is an old school guy that read dictionaries and encyclopedias and understands the difference between what they've taught in the last 20 years and what used to be known.
Right.
But anyway, the idea is to run everything from Venezuela across the north side of South America, everything on the north end of South America up through Central America to Greenland and Alaska, including Canada, by the way, would be the North American Technate. It would be under the control of very specific individuals who had the science and the technology to control things. And that kind of brings us back into what they were talking about. Every leaf, every person, every pound of beef would be marked and it would be given a value. So everything would have, I'm trying to remember what they called it, a digital value.
Okay.
So that you could, every ounce of meat would have its own digital value, every ounce of water, whatever. And then they could manage it. They think that they can manage it through this technocracy by having everything labeled and everything, they're talking about the carbon footprint. Well, that's really more about what you and I consume and what we put out, as far as energy or work. But it's all about the technocracy. And if you look at like Bill Gates's patents, and you look at Elon Musk's patents, and a few of these other things that are going on, like Palantir, the idea is that you can monitor and label everything, and then you'll be able to control it all. And I've said the only thing I can think of that's worse than technocracy or worse than communism would be a communist technocracy, which is what they're, about. You talk about a dystopian, and it's not an accident that people that you hear say, well, China's the model that we want. Why? Because that is exactly what China is. It's a communist technocracy. And even more so, it's getting more and more to be that way. But, the digital IDs, the constant monitoring on the streets, I swear, I can't tell you if it's true or not, but I've heard from some people that you actually have to watch things from Mao and things from Xi Jinping on your TV in order to get extra social credits. That's right out of 1984. But, people are like, well, and they get mad at me because I keep mentioning 1984, but when I see it in a pattern in the world around me, it's kind of hard not to mention it.
100%.
But yeah, if you get into social, if you jaywalk in China, they put your face up on the board and they tell everybody how horrible you are because you jaywalked. But you can get your social credits back if you watch so many hours of Xi Jinping or Mao on your television. And they know what you watch on your TV too, by the way.
100%.
And what you do on your computer.
It seems like Venezuela is just
insane.
Another step to this global technocratic system, the New World Order that we've been yelling at people about for years. But not only that, the natural resources, the narcotics, the oil, everything that they can get their hands on to make this technocratic, elitist ruling class more powerful, and that's exactly what's happening. They're snatching it up, and it's another step to complete control.
Excuse me. A good example is the sports. A lot of people are completely unaware that professional sports, back in the Reagan era, now we're talking a long time ago, y'all. We're talking, 40 years at this point. Back in the Reagan era, they allotted hundreds of millions of dollars to NASCAR, to basketball, baseball, football, in order to boost those things for people because they were starting to fall away. My generation was not that attached to it. Honest goodness truth, my generation for a long time we were outside doing our thing. We couldn't care less about sports. And then they got the funding, and they've got the marketing, and they got all this insertion from the federal government to boost them. That's how you ended up with all these sponsors on NASCAR. But anyway, so hundreds of millions. Today it would have been billions. They invested into those sports because they needed the distraction. They needed the bread and circuses. So that's when it started with that side of things. And then we've seen over the last decade, maybe 20 years, that they started making things more and more legal. First it was marijuana here and marijuana there, and then there are some places where I swear there's parts of Canada, there's no drug that you can't use legally. It's crazy. And then you think about the acceptance thing, like if they were serious about doing something about drugs, why would they give people needles?
Right.
I mean, granted, I don't want them getting sick with whatever because of dirty needles and things, but if you really wanted to help people, you'd give them the needles, and you would encourage, every time you dealt with them, you would encourage them to go get treatment, not encourage them to come back to get more needles.
Well, it seems
and then
kind of enabling to even offer that to begin with, right?
Exactly, but it goes back to what I was saying about 1984 and Brave New World and those other books. You give them the bread and circuses. Then you give them the drugs, and they just don't care.
Yeah.
And drugs come in various forms, you all. Sometimes it's just fast food. the idea is if you can keep them distracted and keep them happy in whatever way, they don't understand that you're slowly but surely turning the heat up underneath them. And, that's where we're at.
Another thing that's unfolding that is a slippery slope that we could eventually see here in the United States is the arrests for posting on social media, for talking about your opinions and giving your thoughts about the government or certain things that are considered hate speech. You can now be arrested in the UK and Canada.
Yes. Well, in Germany, all of Europe right now is under the European Union. I don't know, people probably don't know Colonel Jacques Baud, but he has been individually sanctioned. Not the whole country's been sanctioned. They've sanctioned one human being because he refuses to go along with the narrative that they're spewing in Europe. He can't get to his bank. He can't. I mean, it's just crazy what they've done to this man. Now, this is this is a decorated individual, loyal to his country. I mean, obviously he was a colonel, dedicated his life, but he refuses to go along with the narrative. So they have personally sanctioned him. He can't get to his bank. And this is in Europe. This isn't in China.
It's crazy.
So they're making his life a living mess. Thank goodness people are aware of him and are helping him out in different ways, But yeah, it's just so we have that in Europe. But then we had 1,400 and some people in England that got arrested because they posted that they were against genocide. And it wasn't anything, it wasn't anything. I'll be careful how I say this. It wasn't anything that they were saying against the Greys, that little British protectorate inside Palestine. They weren't saying anything directly against them. What they were saying is that there should be somebody stand up against genocide. This is not acceptable. And so 1,400, I think it's 1,482 or 92 people last year were arrested and detained and charged with saying something hurtful on the internet. What's interesting to me is if you look at the charter in England, just arresting these people, they could say as long as they were not inciting violence. That's really the same thing here in the United States. As long as they're not saying go out and kill this person or go out and beat the tar out of this person or as long as you're not inciting violence or inciting insurrection, which is in England, that's one of those things that's not protected. But anyway, as long as you're not doing anything like that, their charter, they have the same free speech sort of that we do. But it seems like the charter doesn't mean anything, and it's been in place for like 400 years. Same thing in Canada. Here in the United States, people are getting visited by the FBI. If they're speaking against that little British protectorate in Palestine, they're getting visited by the FBI. I'm surprised I haven't been, but I'll just tell it like it is. The first article that I wrote for Indie Media, and this is decades ago, was the truth about the Arab-Israeli conflict, and I went all the way back to the 1933 treaty between Hitler's Germany and the people inside of Germany that needed to leave or wanted to leave. And of course, immediately, that article was probably the first one to put a bullseye on me. But I mean, the telling the truth these days, and see, that's the other thing that people aren't talking about. Speaking the truth historically and accurately with documents can get you arrested in many places, including the United States. And here in the United States, you may not get arrested, but you could have somebody, knocking on your door. Hey, this is the FBI. We need to talk to you about something you said on your podcast. It's like, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting, the reaction from the media and ruling class to people becoming aware of some of the problems with the Israeli government. It seems like it's being allowed in some cases. I have to think that it's because they are trying to usher in this biblical prophecy in a sense, so they have to be hated by the masses of people in order to fulfill this prophecy. Am I right?
It's psychopathy.
Yeah,
You and I
it
both
is.
know this. I mean, it is psychopathy. You know, I used to bring up the fact that, we're in a world of nihilists. All right. Nihilism somehow has taken root, and it has gotten worse over the last 25 or 30 years, even more so since the Jabberwocky started in 2020. I think it's affected people's mentality.
Yeah.
But also you have all this psychological warfare that's being conducted on television. We have that to deal with too. But the thing that I see is self-fulfilling prophecy. But a lot of people aren't aware of the Sabbatine Frankist aspect of this either. The Sabbatine Frankists are basically inverted.
Yeah.
They think that if they can do enough evil in the world, that they will force their Messiah to come back. And that is what we're looking at. I mean, people don't understand that if they've never studied it, but and the Sabbatine Frankists are the ones that took over the Catholicism when Western Rome, Constantinople, retook the papal throne. And that's what it was. It was a papal throne, y'all. When they split East and West, and Constantinople took over the papal throne, or papal throne, however you want to say it, that was when the Sabbatine Frankists took over Catholicism. And, people get mad at me for pointing out that Catholicism was the original communist government. If you look at the way Catholicism works, the people at the top are in charge. Yeah. Everything that you have is theirs, and everything that they have is theirs, and anything that they want is theirs. And if you don't go along with them, they kill you. That's communism. Not true communism, but it's communism as we've seen it over the years, whether it be Mao or China today or the Bolsheviks in Russia. Yeah. That's the way it has always worked. But it's because it's the same source. It's the Sabbatine Frankists.
You're absolutely right,
supposedly converted.
If you look deep enough into their belief system and ideologies, what is unfolding now makes a lot more sense.
Well, the other aspect of that too is you can read their own writings, but if you read the Talmud, anything that is not pure, and their definition of pure is weird, but anything that's not pure should be destroyed.
Right.
That's everything, you all. That's the whole planet. If you think about that aspect, that's cows, pigs, people, anything that's not pure, anything that's not them, really. And some of them even don't qualify, should be destroyed. Well, destroyed or bastardized is the word I would like to use because it's the most accurate. Bastardized to the point where it's corrupt and offensive to their God, so he has to come back and fix it. Well, does that not sound like the days of Noah to you? Everything is corrupted?
Yeah, it's absolute insanity, man.
Well, and that brings us back to the Venezuela thing. Before we finish this, Venezuela, the minute they got in there, now they're talking about Cuba and Greenland again. And I want to remind you that the North American Technate goes from Venezuela to Greenland and Alaska and everything in between, including Cuba. And a lot of people, if you've never heard my Gladio shows, y'all, I did a 4-part series with Colonel Towner Watkins on Gladio, and the first 4 parts covers the originations of Gladio all the way through South America and Africa. And if you just listen to those 4 parts that I did with her, you'll understand the drug trafficking and human trafficking and why Cuba and Venezuela and Brazil and Central America are so important.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go through all that now. It's already been done. It's a 4-part series. And you can find it. Just type in Raven Keefer, Gladio.
Well, I know you wanted to get into some of the technological nightmares that are unfolding in our reality, I wanted to ask you your thoughts about the sentient world simulation, what they're doing with this, how much they are able to predict human behavior, and some of the applications they're using with this. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, on predicting human behavior, I think it's 100% possible. I mean, you and I, if we observe somebody long enough, we could predict what they were going to do, right? Mm-hmm. And we would probably figure out a way to trigger them to get them to do what we wanted them to. I mean, I hate to sound evil, you all, but it's true. I am a pattern. That's what I built my books, my podcasts. I'm a pattern recognition specialist. Mm-hmm. If I watch somebody long enough, or I started looking at what they were doing online, it would take me hardly any time to figure out how to trigger them and get them to do what I wanted them to. And they would have no idea that I was doing it. Now, that's what's being done to us all the time, especially if you spend a lot of time on TikTok or Instagram and you're reading comments and you're watching television. They are triggering you to do what they want you to do. You know, authority is a really strange word, because authority means that either through influence or direct compulsion, which means, you know, like at gunpoint, they control your thoughts, your behaviors, and your actions. That's what authority is. When you give your authority to the television or the people speaking on the television, you have given them authorization to control your thoughts, your actions, and your behaviors.
Yeah.
Something for people to think about. So yes, I'm telling you right now, between the siloing that you have going on, where like you and I will see each other's posts, but nobody else will.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
A certain group of people will see our stuff, but nobody else will, because they've got us siloed. They've got us in a sandbox. Mm-hmm. Quicksand is what it feels like. And then you also have the comment farming. Okay, so like you and I put up videos. I put up one today, you put up one yesterday, mm-hmm. right? All the comments that I see could reflect my opinion.
It's just so ridiculous.
Or all the comments I could see could be just the exact opposite of my opinion. But it's not going to be all the comments that are there. There could be 10,000 comments, mm-hmm. and I'm only going to see the 3,000 that they want me to see.
It's diabolical.
It is evil. Yeah. But that's what's happening to people, and they don't understand that, you know. Very good example is my wife and I were looking at the same video on Instagram. And I was looking at the comments, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty funny. You know, I'm finding the comments hilarious, whatever people are saying. And then I happened to look. Her top 10 comments were not mine. And then we just started scrolling, and we had to get down about 50 to 70 comments before we even saw one that was similar. And they were juxtaposed in opinion.
Well, on top of that, you also have to decipher what is a real and fake account, what is bots, what is AI interacting with you. It's saturated with that now. Yeah.
Well, and I don't look at comments, y'all. I mean, I will go through the comments and see if somebody asks me a question, and I will answer it. But I hardly ever, I mean, just general comments I'll answer. But if I see something that's like way off base, I know it's a bot or somebody who's paid to do it, so I don't even pay attention to it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be there. I mean, if I'm just scrolling through stuff, like, you know, I doom scrolled all your videos to catch up with them the other day.
Right.
I didn't look at any of the comments other than the one I put in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and that's the other thing I've noticed. Have you noticed that when you're trying to comment positively on somebody's post or video or whatever, have you ever noticed that the autocorrect will screw it all up? I'm like, now wait a second. That's not what I typed, and I have to edit it, which changes the way it's fed to the algorithm.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of manipulation going on, but that siloing and sandboxing is a huge thing. And they sandbox you with the comments. And, you know, people don't realize that there are places like, have you seen the Chinese bot farms?
Yeah.
Where they've got like 10,000 phones in one bank. They got 10,000 phones in one bank, and they got like 30 banks just in that one area. So you're talking 300,000 accounts. And there's one person managing it from a computer. There's nothing, that old saying, there's nothing real on the internet. I think it's gotten true finally.
I remember just a few short years ago, I really enjoyed looking at YouTube content creators that showed anomalous videos, either paranormal or UFOs, and this is before AI took over the space with fakery. It was enjoyable, and a lot of these content creators did great work sharing some of this stuff, but now all of that is over. I think the era of video evidence is dead because it's almost impossible to tell the difference between some of this stuff now. So many of my colleagues and friends that are around the boomer age refuse to believe that a lot of this stuff is fake, and they're still going through it, sharing it as if it was real. So there's a huge portion of the population that is hooked into this and can't see the fakery.
There's a really good example that I have been using for people. There's a video online that this guy goes out in the woods and he rescues a wolf from a trap. And the pup is right there growling and doing whatever. So he brings the wolf back and he bandages the wolf up and heals it and takes care of it. And then at the end of the video, it shows the pup has grown up and it brings him a rabbit. It's all AI generated. Nothing real about it, but it's got like 10 million views. It's like, and people are making comments, oh, that's so sweet. It's great that you did this and that and the other. And I'm like, oh my God, can you help?
I know.
Of course, a lot of people don't know how wolves actually behave, but it's even beside the point. It's got over, I think it was at 12 million views the last time I actually checked, because I bookmarked it. I wanted to see. But now there's like 50 of them out there. And they're all getting hundreds, they're all getting thousands and millions of views. And it was like, this is all, I mean, it's a sweet little story. I give you that. But it is a fictional story made by AI generated video. And people can't distinguish. That is scary.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I said that I wanted to talk about, because today we are at the point where if they wanted you and me, okay, you're out there and I'm over here. If they wanted to put you and me together robbing a bank right now, they could put the video together, just for the image of me and the image of you right now. They could take our images and put us on, and they could have us robbing a bank out in California right now. And nobody would know.
Have we passed the point of no return? What is the future going to look like with this shit?
Dude, if you and I both had green screens, we could be sitting side by side looking like we were talking to each other, and nobody would know you and I weren't in the same studio. And they couldn't figure it out either. That's how good this has gotten.
They have two realities now. They have the one where you physically walk outside and interact with people and talk with people and live your life. And then there is the online reality, the virtual reality, where more and more people every day are spending more time in that reality than the real reality. And I was talking about this the other day. I have to thank AI because I don't scroll anymore on social media. I post my shows on there and I'm out. I used to spend a few minutes a day scrolling, looking at nonsense, but it has gotten so saturated with fakery, I don't do it anymore. So thank you, AI, for that.
Well, what I have done, if you're on Twix, you can say my stuff. And if you're on Instagram, you can say my stuff. They'll put some stuff in there, but it's people that you have subscribed to or follow, my following. And what I have learned is that when I get back on, it always puts me over into the general feed, which I don't want. If I'm on one of those, I want to see who it is that I'm looking for. And that's what I do. But now, as far as, doom scrolling, I was off for 2 weeks. I was off for 2 weeks, and I only had one live show that I had to go do. And then I did the 2 live comedy shows just online. I did live stream comedy. on the 26th and then again on the 2nd. But and they are on YouTube too. But anyway, I didn't have much to do. I was working on a new album, but I doom scrolled Instagram for like an hour, and it ended up being 2 hours. And I'm like, how the heck?
Missing time.
You know, I said I got an hour to kill. So I'm like doom scrolling, and I was looking at all the comedians like Boopsy and Slim Sherry. And I really love these guys. That's the reason why I'm giving them a shout out. But that's what I was doing. I was doom scrolling all the comedy people that are my age and can relate to. And the next thing I know, it's 2 hours. And I'm like, never again. Because that's what it's designed to do. Yeah. And if it can do it to me, I feel bad for people that aren't aware of it.
Now, these social media companies, they could make it to where there are disclaimers required for AI content. This would be very easy for them to do, but are they going to? No. And as far as I know, there are programs that you can use to tell whether it's AI or not, but they're not 100% accurate. Sometimes the programs don't even know.
We have recently. Now, see, here's the thing. I said it was going to come on quick, and I don't know if I talked to you. I've been on other shows, but I said it was going to come up really, really quick because as these programs learn and develop, it's going to get harder and harder to distinguish between real and not real. And when they started creating those 3D video games that look like real streets, I'm like, we're in trouble because they've already got the backgrounds figured out. Once they figure out how to do the human part, we're the human images. We're right now. We have had just over the holiday break. I have seen 12, not 15 or 20, but 12 videos completely AI generated that the detectors could not detect. That's how fast it's moved in the last year. And the other thing that we have with this AI generated problem is that there's no way to know if the person that you're watching on television giving a speech is the actual person anymore.
See, that's something to get into some really woo-woo waters. If there is this level of AI that we're interacting with, if that was available to the military-industrial complex, three-letter agencies 10 years ago or even more, who's to say they weren't using it and we would have never been able to tell?
Well, and I will tell you this. I think it's been used a lot more than we think. I mean, in the early days, we could catch like CNN using a backdrop because there would be like a blur. Yeah. There would be a blur, or sometimes you would catch that green edge. So you could catch them using a generated image behind them. Yeah. Today, you can't. I mean, I always try to point out my favorite thing to use is the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit series. You've got Ian McKellen in one room that's all green. You have the hobbits or the dwarves, whichever show you want to choose, in the other room. And when you look at that footage, you can't tell that they're not in the same room.
Yeah.
I always tell people, if you really want to know what they're capable of doing, they can do it live now. If you want to know what they're capable of doing, go get the Lord of the Rings and watch the behind the scenes and special effects. Because if they could do that for the movie, they can do that for television news. They can do it at the presidential speech. They can do it at a combat scene. I mean, how many times did we catch them faking stuff? Like the guy in the body bag reaching out to puff on his cigarette. You remember that?
Yeah.
Supposed to be like 30 dead people laying there, and the guy reaches out because he's got to blow his smoke out of the. We've caught this stuff so many times, but it's so seamless now that how long are we going to be able to catch it? And then we have to rely on algorithmic driven processors to look at the video. So it's gotten to the point where humans can't discern anymore. We're actually having to use other algorithmic programs to figure out if this was created by an algorithmic program. That should scare people.
Yeah. People give the argument that AI is going to free up humanity to do bigger and better things, but what I'm witnessing is it's only making us less creative, making us stupider, more reliant on the technology and the AI. I try to use AI as little as possible. I know it's built into all our technology, so it's impossible. But for example, the artwork for my thumbnails for the shows, I still use Photoshop. I get in there and I put everything together. It takes me about 20, 30, 40 minutes to just get the thumbnail done. But I can't bring myself to use AI. Almost everyone is doing this for their thumbnails now, and it looks great. It's amazing. AI can make some amazing art. But the creativity that's behind that, where is that going to now?
Well, you know, it's like my logo. My logo was made by Robbie Marks, and I cannot compliment him enough, because people will see that and they will recognize it before they do my name. But it was made by a human being by hand. All right. And I shout him out every chance I can, because they will recognize my logo before they recognize my name, which is kind of scary. But that's what it's for, right? So there's the quality of a human touch doing what they know to do. Now, if you look at my album covers, I designed all those album covers, but I used AI to build them. You know, I don't have the money for graphic artists, and I don't have all those extra things, but I had access to this program. I knew what I wanted to create. I knew what I wanted it to look like. And every one of my album covers was generated with AI.
Honestly, most people aren't even doing that. They don't have any idea of what they want the final product to look like. They just type in a few parameters and AI does the rest. So at least there's a level of creativity and forethought to creating those.
Well, it's not always easy, you know, like I did these live shows, and I'm creating a live album, live round 1 and live round 2, and I wanted it to be me. I wanted it to be me and the Raven inside of a boxing ring with the musical instruments, right? Uh-huh. And you know how hard it is to get AI to understand you want everything inside the ring. But anyway, so it's not. I already had the concept for the covers for all my albums in my head when I figured out what the album was going to be. But, you know, you're not talking about just type it in and there it is. You type it in and there it is, and you're like, oh my God, what the heck? So, you know, I spent hours working with this AI in order to get my album covers the way I wanted them. But like I said, I don't have the money for a graphic artist, and I don't have the money to do all that. So I did it myself. And I think that's different than when somebody just types in, oh, I've already seen, you know, make it look like an oil painting and blah, blah. You know, they put like 10 or 12 parameters in there and they just let it generate it. To me, that's not creativity at all. That's just, I want something quick and easy.
Yeah, and I get it if you don't have that particular creative talent or artistic ability. Use AI. I don't have any problems with that at all. It's the overuse, and exactly, it's also the overuse of AI, the over-reliance on AI and technology. People that have relationships with ChatGPT and can't answer any questions in life without asking their chatbot about it. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, and you know, a lot of these chatbots only have access to data back to 2020 and 2016. So, and I said this in my last podcast, is, you know, all these digitized books, right? I mean, you got all these out of copyright books from the 1600s through the early 1900s, all these amazing works that are out of copyright, and they're out of publishers' hands, and they're digitized. Why aren't the chatbots being given access to those? Because you think about all the data like Carl Jung, propaganda, all those books that you and I rely on for our perspective, they're not being given to these chatbots.
That's because we're in the midst of a reset. They're in the middle of altering all that information, so the next generation won't have any idea about our history.
I agree with that. Now, back on the AI thing, AI generated, you know, I sent you that statistic from Deezer. 55,000 songs a day are being submitted to Deezer that are strictly AI generated. There is no like me. I've got an electronic drum kit. I've got an electric guitar. I've got an acoustic guitar. I've got my native flute that I do for melodies if I'm trying to work it out in my head. I literally will set up my electric drum kit until I figure out what I want, even if it's one drum at a time. And then I load it up, and then the program that I use will take those drum hits, and I can speed them up, slow them down, move them around. I am so, folks, I literally, because I don't play drums the way that, a drummer would. I have to feel my way through it, and then I have to literally go in and do it one drum at a time to get that demo. And then I've got friends who play drums that when they hear the demo, they will clean up my mess. But that's what I am doing with my music. I'm using the program that's available to me, but I'm doing all the hard ass work. And I'm writing all the lyrics. I'm doing all the arrangements and everything else. And then I'm working with friends of mine to put the instruments in where I've done the demo. But they're literally generating AI songs with just prompts. So I want a song about falling down a hill. And, all of a sudden the AI generates a song called Jack and Jill, right? I'm trying to be funny, y'all. Don't forget I am a comedian too. But anyway, so this literally, I want a song about two people falling down a hill. That's all they type. And then they end up with a complete 3 minute and 40-second song about Jack and Jill falling down the hill. And they did nothing. And this is what I'm talking about, the 55. This is just Deezer. I don't know about all the other platforms. I know that Deezer has reported an average of 55,000 completely AI generated songs a day.
That is absolutely nuts.
That's average. So somebody like me who's actually doing the work, writing the lyrics, working out the melodies and arrangements, and then getting my friends to come in and do studio musicians for me. Even though we're using Pro Tools, so we're like not in a studio, right? Yeah. But I put it up on Pro Tools, and then they can pull off the segment that they want, like the drummer, Kerry. He can say, oh, yeah, okay, I got that, and he'll record it, and then we put it back in. And then once everybody's done their pieces, we put it back in. I do the arrangements. I do the levels. And then if I like it, I send it out, let everybody listen to it. If everybody says, yeah, that's great, or somebody says, oh, well, you need to fix this little segment right here, it's timestamped so they can tell me what they don't like and where it doesn't sound quite right, and I can change the adjustments or the levels or whatever. But we're doing all the work. Yeah. That's not what they're doing with these songs. They're typing in, like I said, two people fell down the hill, and they get a 3 minute 30 song about Jack and Jill. So we're being flooded with this stuff. And now, even worse, folks, you need to understand this. The music industry has embraced this company called Suno. And it is all AI. Now, are they talking about maybe replacing artists with AI? You think about it, it would be 100% profit at that point, right?
Same thing for the movie industry. They could just as easily replace actors now.
Well, very good example is they use Suno to redo the Beatles. You know, that Beatles track that they brought out that got the Grammy or whatever. They used that AI to pull John Lennon's vocals, and his vocals were generated by the AI.
Wow!
From that old cassette tape.
Yeah.
So that's how good it is. And a lot of people didn't know that it was AI generated. Because Paul McCartney was involved with it, they thought it was legit. But what they did is they took his lyrics, his vocals, off of a cassette tape and then cleared it all up using AI to do it. Which, I think it's cool that we can recover it, but it should have been promoted and spoken, and everybody should have known that this was done using a computer. And that's where I have the issues with whether it's videos, whether it's using an actor, whether it's using a voice. Because, today I could do a voice, what they call a voice track. So like if I wanted to go to work for a company because they really like my low voice, right? I could go in and I could do a voice track, and they would have me read various sentences. They would record that. And then when they had a character that voice would work with, they could just use my voice. I would never have to appear. It would automatically generate my voice for that whole person in that it could be CGI or cartoon, but they could use my voice throughout that thing, and I would never have to speak a word into a microphone after I did my original recordings, and then I would get paid for my voice acting.
Yeah.
You know, so and they do this, you all. They've been doing this for a long time. It's like a lot of musicians, a lot of performers. Those aren't their voices. Right. Those were recorded by somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, now they can do it with AI, and they don't have to tell you.
We're entering such strange times, man. We've been in strange times. They just keep getting stranger and stranger.
I thought they were strange in the 80s, but, you know, we knew something was coming. We knew something was coming, and now, you know, all the things that we were talking about in the 80s and 90s as far as like dystopian and computer controlled and you know, maybe even the Terminator to some extent, we're seeing it.
We are. You know? Earlier you mentioned that there's a lot of wartime symbolism that's appearing this year. What are some of the possible events and agendas that we really need to pay attention to that might indicate conflicts or wars?
Economy is the number one one. You know, I brought that up a little bit earlier, but, you know, every time that they reach the end of the feasibility of the economic system they have in place, basically what that means is they've stolen all the wealth that they can out of it. When they get to that point, they have to reset. I mean, we saw it in the 1400s. We saw it in the 16 and 1800s. You know, we've gotten almost 200 years since the last big reset. 1860, so, you know, 160 years. But, you know, the dollar bill in the United States was never designed to last more than about 100 years anyway. It was designed to lose 1 percentage point per year. And they've flubbed around with it a few times in the 60s and 70s and 80s in order to make it last a little bit longer. But, you know, every false economic cycle, and by false I mean this paper and usury cycle, every time that they've installed something like this, you can go back to Rome, you can go back to Greece, Phoenicia even. But every time they've installed this type of usury system with, you know, this weird currency system, I mean, they've even used wooden coins, I mean, back in the day. It's designed to only go so far, and it's also designed that the people at the top, it's like a pyramid scheme. They just suck all the wealth up to the top, and once they've wrung out everything that they can, they have to reset it. Well, when they reset, you can look at the 14, 16, 1800s. It's a war. That's how they do it. And, you know, the complete reset in the 1900s between World War I and World War II was in order to get the Federal Reserve System here in the United States established and the global bank established. You know, the World Bank was established after World War II using gold and silver bullion that was supposed to have been set aside for restoration of Europe. Instead, McCloy took it and established the World Bank under the Rothschilds. So they established the World Bank with stolen gold, you all. And that's how we ended up with the IMF and the WTO and all the stuff that we see today.
When we say war, modern warfare, even with other countries and invasions, looks much different than it used to. But we've been at war with the ruling class for a very long time. It's a psychological war. It's a war of the mind. And I think they're going to continue to step that up this year, especially with the level of technology they've been using. I also think that there are a lot of people who've become aware enough to not participate. And non-participation, in my perspective, is the best way to try and counter some of the dystopian agendas that are unfolding. I think there's going to be a split between people. There's going to be people who are complacent and want to be part of the technocracy. And then there's going to be those like us who are slowly more and more pulling out of the system. Once that split takes place completely, I think there's going to be another concern that those that are in the system are going to want to fight against the others that aren't in the system and are going to want the resources from those that aren't in the system as well. So that's a whole new thing that we have to be aware of.
Look at the Jabberwocky issue.
Mm-hmm.
There were people who would have taken anybody who refused. There were people out there who would have taken anybody who refused and put us in a concentration camp.
Yeah. Yep.
And they would have done it without even thinking about it. So think about how much more that's going to get to be when resources are tight, food is hard to find. There's only a few people who actually know how to grow it themselves and take care of it and bring it to fruition. You think about how much more it's going to be when they slam us. I think we're looking at like a depression era thing. Honestly, y'all, we've been in a recession for a long time. We're in a state. They say it's not hyperinflation, but I can tell you right now, the groceries have gone down by 25% in content and have doubled in price. This year. So that means that you've had a 75% increase, you all. I'm sorry, 125%, because you lost 25% of the product and it doubled in price. So 125%, that's hyperinflation, y'all, in a year.
Yeah.
And it's going to get worse. They say, well, it's a long way off. And I brought this up in my other podcast. Argentina thought it was a long way off, and in 24 hours, their $100 bill was worth less than $1. Mexico thought it was a long way off, and in 48 hours, 100 pesos was worth 1/100th of $1. Not a penny. It was 4 digits. You had to have $1,000 bill to buy what you would normally have bought with $1, and that was in 48 hours. And that's what they do. I mean, they'll crash it. When they crash it all at once. What I'm seeing is we keep poking the bear and we keep poking the Chinese, and it's not us. It's these people in Washington D.C. But they're doing it. It looks like a setup. They hold a lot of our debt, and the Japanese do too. If they dump all those bonds, that would kill our currency in 24 hours. So what it looks like they're doing is they're making it look like it's staged. So that they've made the Chinese angry, and the Chinese are just going to dump our bonds. And that's kind of like a revenge looking thing. Well, they did it to us. That way they can blame somebody else. You see what I'm saying? It's not the Federal Reserve Bank, and it's not the idiots in Washington spending trillions of dollars that we don't even have. It's the Chinese. They dumped our bonds and they killed our market. Well, now there's a perfectly good reason to go to war, right?
100%.
But they got to get people involved too. We'll go back to what you and I talked about a long time ago. They said they want a population of 500 million.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read the Committee of 300, they really want the vast majority of them to be Chinese or Asian because they're already quote unquote conditioned to obey. Wow. And the destruction of the Western nations was written 100 years ago. The destruction of the United States, the first time I can find any reference was 1857. They wanted to set this place up, use the people and the industry and the industriousness of the people here. And then they wanted to just basically rape and pillage the country until there was nothing left. Yeah. And that was, in the 1850s, they were talking about doing that to this country. So,
well, there's a lot to keep an eye on without getting too emotionally entangled with the nonsense. But Raven, thank you so much. Any plans for 2026? Anything that you have in the works?
I got 2 albums. I got 2 albums that I'm working on.
Nice.
And they'll be out. Well, the live album we've already got it mastered from my first live show. That live album will be out in, I think, February, around Valentine's Day. The second live show that I did, we're working on getting that done, and that one will probably release in April. But I'm working on 2 brand new albums. I just been really busy doing other stuff, and I'm still doing my comedy stuff. I'm trying to get like a regular session where I just go live online and do stand up, improv. Like I said, I did 2 of them over the holidays. I did one on the 26th and one on the 2nd of January, and those are both available free on YouTube, right, y'all. So are my 2 live shows that I did over there at the club. It's live round 1, live round 2. They're both available on YouTube, free.
Awesome, man.
Watch me sing. But anyway, dude, for me, it's just live. You know, don't get tangled up in all this stuff going on out here. That's theater of consciousness. They want you distracted. If you got a spouse, spend time with her. If you got kids, spend time with them. If you got something that you want to do, like me with my music and comedy, do it. We're not promised tomorrow. I mean, literally, I could go to work today and not come back home, y'all. So do today what you should be doing. You know, nothing's worse than having, you know, I've been there, y'all. I've had somebody pass away that I thought was a really good friend, and 6 months I hadn't talked to him because I'd been too damn busy. And what a damn shame, y'all. You know, what a shame. And it wasn't his fault, wasn't my fault. We were just busy. And that sucks. So don't be me. You know, I've learned that lesson a couple of times in my life. Don't be me back then. Be me now. Take the time to say, hey, I love you. Hey, man, I'm glad you're here. Hey, why don't we get together and just drink some coffee and shoot the shit?
As they say, no one on their deathbed ever says, oh, I wish I would have worked more.
Yeah, that's it.
Raven, right on, man. This was fantastic. Of course, we will be doing this again. Remind the audience how they can get a hold of you, find your content.
It's just Raven Keefer, y'all. And I've learned the hashtags finally. You see, there's a thing about Gen X. We finally catch on to things. But you can hashtag me, hashtag Raven Keefer. You'll find me everywhere. Everywhere that I've remembered to put the hashtags anyway. But I'm on YouTube, Raven Keefer. I'm on X, Raven Keefer. I'm on Instagram. But you know, just you'll find me. I'm on Spreaker, but my stuff is everywhere. My music is on like 50 different things that stream music. I even got a Pandora channel. Can you imagine? Nice. But anyway, and then you know, my comedy, it's out there. There's like 260 hours of comedy. Just type in Raven Keefer Laugh Podcast, and it's free. You know, people need to laugh, and I have fun doing it. So, and Chris, I'll be back to visit you, next month?
Oh, yeah. You'll be back for sure, man. Well, awesome.
Anyway, man, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We'll talk again tomorrow. We'll see y'all then. If you're looking to start your therapeutic microdosing journey, but don't know where to start, especially when looking for the highest quality ingredients, including nootropics, and what you'd expect from a true microdose capsule, check out our friends at Brainsupreme. They offer the absolute highest quality ingredients so you can start your microdosing journey knowing that you're getting top-notch ingredients. To find out more, visit their website using that link right in the description, and you can get 15% off your entire order. Hello, friends. I am so excited to tell you about Independent Media Token. Independent Media Token is a brand new way to show your support for independent media without having to donate a dime. Independent Media Token is a cryptocurrency on the Solana blockchain designed to generate funds to promote and foster the growth of independent content creators, allowing them to engage in their art without having to worry about being demonetized. Through a network of media partners, of which you yourself can become a part of, Independent Media Token's goal is to ensure the powers that be can never cut off all of our areas of funding and censor the only free voices left in the world. Join the movement today. You can pick up Independent Media Token using Phantom Wallet or the Solana wallet of your choice, where you can easily swap your Solana for IMT. Grab some IMT today and remember to always know your team. To learn more, visit independentmediatoken.com or use the link right in the description. Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion? Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools, Every item is chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family, and their goal is to equip you with everything you need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order.